Okay, now we already did reading from CSV files, but I'm just going to go over it, a few more details in it. Um, so we saw that you would use the read.csv. So you could do, what did we have? See, I'm scrolling down back here. We had something, read table. I think I had it. Maybe not, not here, but this one. We did read.csv. Now I could say that this file did not have headers, but it did, didn't it? So I could say that it has headers by doing well, let's just see what happens when we do it like this. Okay, and then let's see. If we say print bitcoins, it's going to do the whole thing. There's some way to truncate the way that it prints out, but I don't remember it. Maybe I'll make another file that's much smaller. So this is the bitcoins, but I'm going to delete most of it. So it's just like that. I don't know if I need this something, but let's change it to like that. And let's try reading in bitcoins short. And let's print it or show it. Kind of messy, but doesn't look too good here, does it? Still too big to really for it to look nice here, but at least it didn't give us an error. Now, what did I say? Headers. Didn't say anything about headers. So I guess it assumes that there are headers. I mean, yeah. So if you have headers, maybe you don't have to say headers true. But if you don't have headers, you should say headers false. Maybe. Let's try a better example. Let's make a simple file. And let's suppose we don't have headers, and we just have 1, 2. Okay, just suppose we have that. Not very interesting, but no headers. And let's just call it simple, and it's a CSV file. Close it. And let's try it again. And this time it's called simple. Oops, I read it into bitcoins, but okay, and then let's print it out like that. Okay, so now, alright, now let's try it with headers false, see what happens. If there's any difference. Doesn't like that. Now that's kind of a weird error because it says error in read table, but we did read CSV, so that's one thing to note. And the other problem is that it shouldn't be headers. It should be header. Okay, so that worked. Let's see what happens when we print it out. Not very much difference there, except that these are X's and these are V's. So maybe these are, see what happens. Now I think if we did this, bitcoins $V4, that will be fine. But if we go back and read it the original way we read it, without the header false, we do it that way, and now do Bitcoin X, see if this works, see if there's any difference here, X4, oh, that works also. Anyway, if you have a header, just do read CSV, but if you have no header, you should say header equals false. Maybe that's just a good practice. And if you have no header, or if you have a header, if you have no header, then R will make some synthetic header names, as we saw v1, v2, and so on. Now one more thing about read.csv is that if you have non-numeric data, which we saw before, then it's going to interpret the data as a factor, not just a character, but a factor. Or that is, it's going to treat the whole column as a categorical variable. Now, that's not always what you want, but so usually when you're doing statistics, that is what you want. And let's see what happens if we say class, well, let me try a different file, make a new file. And save it as a file 2 or something. And CSV. It is comma separated. You can see there are commas there. I think I can just leave it as normal. I think I want to do this here. Let's see what happens. Okay, maybe it works. Let's try to read that in. It's called file2.csv. No. Let's see what's wrong with that file. I wonder if I need this extra line here. Put that in and save it. Wonder if that helps. Yeah, it's really difficult. Okay, so anyway, it read it. Now I want to know about this. Let's try class. This is still bitcoins. $. It was called label was the first one. So like I said, well, let me do this to show you what that was without opening the file again. This is what we had there, low, medium, and high. And well, I will show you the file. So low, medium, and high. And we didn't have to say that there were labels. It assumes that they're labels. But that's all. Okay. Now here's another function that we haven't talked about, but this tells you sort of the structure of your this is called, what we've created here is called a data frame. Bitcoins is a data frame, it's called. It's not just a matrix, or it's not just a an array or something like that. It's called a data frame because it arrays and matrices can't have different kinds of data in them. And Bitcoins has categorical variables and also numerical variables, and you can't have that in arrays and matrices. So this is actually called a data frame. And anyway, if you want to see the structure of it, you can use this function here. So let's see what that means. So it says it's a data frame. Whereas, did we have something else that wasn't a data frame? What was this? That was also Bitcoins. Simple. So if I reread in simple, let's see. Let's try that. Read in simple, which was, and now if I do Bitcoins, now it's not going to be a data frame. Yes, it is. So maybe the default when you read something in using read.csv is data frame. Okay, anyway, going back to the other case, so a data frame, 3 observations of 3 variables. So remember that it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 3 variables, and 3 observations. 1, it's called the first observation, the second, and the third observation just means row, really. Or it can say it just means row. So let's go back there. So it's 3 observations of 3 variables, and gives the names of the variables. So label is one of the names. L bound was another one, and this was another. These are the column names. And label was a factor with 3 levels, means it has 3 different possible variables. I'm sorry, 3 different possible values. So, you know, you might have had data like this, like another row that looked like this, for example. So that's a new row. So we still would have only 3 levels here, because those are just the possibilities. Okay, even though we have 4 rows, but we only have 3 different possible values for that: low, medium, and high. Okay? So it says that one is a factor. It means it's categorical with 3 levels, and it tells you what they can medium. I'm sorry, low, high, low, and middle, or whatever. And 2, 3, 1. I guess that means, I'm not sure what this means, but it might mean that high was in the second place. Is that true? I don't think so. No, high was in the third. What does that mean? 2, 3, 1. I'm not sure. And then these are the values for the, sorry, this is the label, sorry, this is the column heading for the second column, and the column heading for the third column. These are the values. Now, if you want this to not be treated as a factor, but just as a character, or in other words, just as strings, not as so-called factors, and the difference is not that clear right now, but there are some differences. In that case, you can use a parameter or an argument as that is, and set that to true. So let's go back and read it again, because we read the wrong. We have the wrong one in there. So let's go back to here, here, and read in file 2. And just to check, let's see the class of that, or just look at this. So it's still a label. Okay, now if we go back and read it again, though, and force it to be a string, force the first column to be a string, we can do that, or actually all the columns to be as strings. So typing as.is equals true means that you're not getting any categorical variable, you're just getting strings. So there's some difference between a categorical variable and a string. So now if we read it like this, and then we check it, and now they are the non-numerical ones here. This one is treated as a character. And as we recall that you can put in comments and they will be ignored. If you don't want that to happen, you can add in one more parameter or one more argument. So you can do this and add in one more parameter. So now there is the comment character. There's no comment character basically. So now if you have so now it won't treat that line with the pound sign in front of it as a comment. So it might be a case where you want that, so you can do it this way. Now, beyond what we've talked about, this read.csv function has a lot of different things that you can, ways that you can tweak it, and you can skip the leading line in the input file. You can control the conversion of individual columns. So we did that as is. That controls the conversion of all the columns, but you can control individual ones. And you can actually, if a row is missing something, you can have it actually fill it out so that you don't get an error. Because sometimes if it's missing, if you have one row which is missing some data, it won't work. But you can sort of get around that. You can limit the number of lines, and you can control the quoting of strings. So you can check the R-help for that. So to reiterate, read CSV function has many useful bells and whistles. You can skip leading lines in the input file. You can control the conversion of individual columns. Oops. You can fill out short rows. You can limit the number of lines. So you might not want to allow somebody to put in too many lines into your program or something. You can limit the number of lines, and you can control the quoting of strings. So strings, sometimes you need to quote strings, sometimes you don't want strings to be quoted. Means having quotations around them, and you can control that. Okay. And you can see the R help page for the read table also, which is the basis for the read.csv. And there's also something called write.csv, so you can create CSV files from the output of your analyses. Okay.